Welcome back to Survivor Analytics, Season 48. It's our 8th season of Survivor, our 4th live season. I'm the voice of the people. My name's Jack. With me, as always, the true expert. Say hi, Clyde.
What's up, party people? After, 2-month hiatus, we're back in action, covering Survivor, covering the new era.
It's been 2 months off. After our first season of live Survivor, we were able to go back and watch a classic series. Not anymore. We haven't had a winter old season in 2 years now, which I miss. I miss having that taste of classic Survivor in between new eras, but it is what it is. Clyde, there's a lot to celebrate here. It's 2025. The hype train for season 50 has begun. We'll get into that during the episode. Since we last recorded a classic Survivor Analytics episode, I got engaged.
Ooh.
So that's exciting. You took some boards. That's exciting. Did you choose your residency in this time? I think so.
No, I think I did that. That was back in November, I want to say. Things have changed for sure in the last 2 months.
But the game hasn't. The game's the same. We're back.
And that's honestly one of the first things that I wrote down. It's like the new era is back. We have the Sweat versus Savvy-esque challenge in the opening. We have an early injury or breakdown, which happens in all of these new era seasons. We got Jeff giving an opening monologue on what it means to play Survivor. And I'll be honest, the premieres of these new era seasons do drag a bit for me because they are all so similar. And I think as you get deeper into it and you learn more about the characters, that's where they start to distinguish themselves. While I do have those issues with this premiere, I do think this is a better premiere of the new era. I think that we learned a lot about the different characters on this cast, and I'm excited to see where this season goes. I'm not sure if I'm happy with the distribution of the characters. I think there's some tribes that I'm way more invested in than others, but as a whole, I'm content with how this started. What are some of your surface level thoughts?
I mean, my surface level thought is that when we got to the immunity challenge and I recognized that set from at least 7 different challenges in the new era that we've covered, from Carolyn screaming with the catapult on, we've seen that exact beach, that exact clearing where they do the ramp, and that place where they do the puzzle on the elevated platform. We've seen puzzles been done there for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that, I had this sinking feeling of, oh man, this is more of the same. But the cast is great. And I think for all of the unoriginality of the Survivor stuff, right, of the production, we have a great cast. I am feeling really good about this cast. There's a lot of highlights for me. We've got a Yule head, Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin.
I got to admit, and I'll say it up front, Kevin and Kyle got their names mixed up for quite some time. We've got Eva and Joe, whose dynamic is out the gate one of my favorite we've ever covered. We've got some great characters. We have David, the sensitive stuntman. It's going to be a fun season, new era stuff notwithstanding. But should we jump in? I mean,
yeah, we can hop right into it. The first thing that I have written down is the opening shots. Instead of starting on the island, we start with the contestants' bedrooms and offices.
Sponsored by Zoom.
A Zoom-sponsored season. We get to see everybody's reaction to finding out that they are going to compete on Survivor. Not a lot of noteworthy reactions there. The one that did stand out to me was Joe, who said that he's going to make his kids so proud by going on Survivor. And I think that transitions very well to his alliance with Eva. Some of us predicted that alliance between Eva and Joe during the draft, that person being me. I predicted most other things wrong during that draft, but at least I got that right.
I love that Joe love a proud dad, right? That's immediately great. But we see a lot of times moms come on the show and say, I'm a mom. I'm going to play like a mom, right? I'm Maria and Charlie, right? Where there's kind of a maternal connection. We've seen a few of these types of dynamics. Not a lot of dads come on the show and say, I want to play as a dad, right? Joe comes in right away talking about his kids, wanting to play a clean game in the sense that his goal is to play with a close group of allies that go to the end together. He doesn't want to play backsliding, betraying Survivor. He wants to play it as a team game. We'll see how that goes, but it's admirable that he's setting it out up front.
I don't know how it'll work out for him, but I'm happy that we have that representation, that old school mentality on the cast. Another confessional we get in the opening comes from Say, who says that the lack of filter gets me in trouble a lot of the time. So Say plays a major role in this first episode. She's undoubtedly one of the most prominent characters of the season. She gets 21 confessionals this week, which is the most by any contestant ever in a single episode of Survivor.
21?
Yeah, 21. Meanwhile, you have people like Bianca who get just one confessional. I know some people are going to walk away from this episode and say, like, Say was front and center. She's going to win the show. And I don't really buy that. I think that a lot of Say's content is circumstantial, where we have the idol hunt with her. We have her tribe going to tribal council. Like, a lot of the stuff that we see from Say is things that we need to include in the edit. But I will say that confessional from Say about her lack of filter might be foreshadowing something in the future. She is someone who's going to come out of the gate swinging, and that might bite her in the butt down the line.
I think Say is either going to be the only member of Vula. See that? I knew the tribe name right away.
I'm impressed.
I have it written down in big font right in front of me. I could see her being the only member of the tribe who makes the merge, or she's going to be gone in 2 weeks. She is playing a big, big game for week 1, and it's either going to make or break, and either way, it's going to be big, I think.
The players arrive on the beach. We get the initial Matt chats. Historically, if you are asked a question by Jeff during this Matt chat segment, your chances of winning the season go up. I think for the first 5 seasons of the new era, the winner was always someone who got a Matt chat, but they've pivoted off that in recent years, which is good for the show. Worth noting, the Matt chats this year are Chrissy, Mitch, and Kevin. Chrissy doesn't say anything too notable that I remember. Mitch talks about his speech impediment. We get a flashback to Chrissy from Survivor the Amazon, which is season 6. I really appreciated that because that's one of my favorite Survivor seasons, so I was geeking out. And then, like you mentioned, Kevin gives a shout out to Yule. And we get Yule on screen. There's the tiny rectangular glasses that were much cooler in the mid-2000s. There's the abs. There's the confidence. There's the intelligence. And Jack, let's be honest, like, more often than not, when they pan to these Survivor flashbacks, you have no clue what's going on.
That's true. But
so now you're in on the joke. Like, how did it feel for you to understand what Kevin was talking about here?
I mean, the fact that it was not only a flashback that I got, but a flashback that I loved. I'm a Yule head. If you listen to our Cook Island season, you know I love me some Yule. Is Kevin going to be Yule? I don't know. He got hurt in the first challenge. Yule was, a Greek god, just skating through everything. Yule came out of Survivor with more muscle than he went in. I don't think that happens anymore, but loved the reference and loved that that was Kevin's entry point to the season or to the series. I think it's really cool that in a show where the diversity of Cook Islands was kind of a stunt. Yeah. That was a promotional move. But to see this Asian American kid say, I saw Yule play and now I'm here. Diversity works even when it's a stunt. And so that was really, really cool because I have to imagine Kevin's like our age and shredded, by the way. I mean, we got some meat boys on this cast.
Oh, it's a meat boy heavy cast between Kevin and David and Joe. Like, Eva. There's a lot of meat here. This is a season built for you, Jack, more than anyone else.
I'm feeling good about this season coming in. Jeff says in the intro, failure in the pursuit of something amazing, that's admirable. I agree, but would it hurt for Survivor production to try anything in 2025? They could pursue something amazing, a little bit of originality. Hey, Survivor, want to get crazy? Let's not do another logo puzzle. It's the premiere and we're doing a logo puzzle. We're so far, that's way down the episode.
Well, it's only the first logo puzzle of the season. You better buckle up. I think we're getting at least 1 or 2 more till we reach the finale. Okay, Speaking about like Jeff's opening monologue, he emphasizes this idea that the players need to attack the game and don't sit back and hesitate, because if you do, you'll get left behind. Off the bat, Jeff is incentivizing active gameplay, which I understand that adds a lot more drama to the show. But I don't necessarily think that active gameplay always results in you winning. We've had people like Rome on 47 who was very active in the pre-merge, but that didn't work out for him. He was voted out the second the tribes all came together. So I think that's kind of one of the storylines that they're establishing at the beginning of this season, is that Survivor awards people who are active. And I think when I look deep down the line, I'm trying to come up with who's going to win the show. I think it's going to be someone that's like out in front directing votes, not someone that's hiding in the shadows and kind of letting other people cannibalize each other. And that even comes to fruition during the tribal council this week. We have that discussion about strategizing and talking at the water well versus sitting back and watching the stars.
There's a fine line to it, right? Where if you play too active, you're going home. There's a time to play and a time to sit, not just sit back and be like, oh, wow, I'm in Fiji, I'm going to enjoy this. But there's a time to talk strategy, and there's a time to establish relationships. I think the delineation that Say makes in this episode, you're either talking strategy or you're enjoying the environment. And there's a lot in between that I think she's excluding. But let's jump into some action here. I had never heard this term, and tell me if you knew this, the marooning challenge.
Yeah, it's always been the marooning challenge since the first season of the show.
Damn it. I'd never heard that before.
Hey, it proves that you're always learning, right? There's something valuable. Even in your 8th season, you can still pick up something new.
I've never heard it before. We've never called it that, I'm sure. But the marooning challenge, do you want me to just run through it really quick?
Yeah, I don't care that much about it. So this is all you.
4K, slow-mo. Those cameras they use for filming the Avatar movies that they have to build special for those movies, right? The highest resolution you've ever seen. These players dive into some mud and move some chests and climb a ramp for keys, and then they throw some sandbags. There's nothing interesting in this challenge. It's mud, because there's always mud. There's some climbing, there's some lifting, there's some throwing. The notable thing, Kevin gets hurt, somehow hurts his shoulder as he's trying to crawl through the mud. I wrote down that if Jeff is leaning over you and yelling at you to dig deeper as you're crawling through the mud net, that might be my nightmare. Whoever it is crawling through the mud, I couldn't tell. Jeff is just 36 inches above them, bending over and screaming at them to dig deeper. It bothered me, is all I'm saying.
But like you mentioned, Kevin gets injured. And this isn't shown on the show, but he actually dislocated his shoulder there. And they had to bring medical over after the challenge. He apparently blacked out and passed out partway through. And none of that is shown. It makes it look like this was just a very minor shoulder injury for Kevin, which is kind of ridiculous. So this tells me two things about Kevin's time on Survivor. Number one is that he's not winning. So after this episode, we have 17 contestants left. You might as well say that there's 16 people. Because we both know that if Kevin won this show, that they would have spent 5 to 10 minutes dragging out that medical saga like they did for Andy on 46. Yeah. And they would use it kind of as the springboard to say, look how much adversity Kevin overcame. He was injured in episode 1, but he went on to win Survivor. It's completely cut out of the storyline. It's also interesting in that Kevin has this horrible injury. And despite that, his tribe keeps putting him forward as their representative. They send him to the Sweat versus Savvy knockoff challenge. He's later the puzzle person during the immunity challenge. Like, they do not care that Kevin just had this gruesome injury. They're going to use the meat boy to his full potential.
If he blacked out and they had to spend several minutes relocating his shoulder to then send him on Sweat versus Savvy immediately after that, that's crazy.
It's wild. And the edit makes it look like Justin is the person who tells Kevin, oh, you got this, you should go. In my mind, I'm guessing that Kevin was volunteering. I can also tell you that this is not the first time that a contestant has dislocated their shoulder in the marooning challenge. This has happened one other time in Survivor history. And maybe at some point down the line, we'll get to that season.
And Loggy wins. I'll say this, just like we are going to need to get used to Vula losing challenges, it seems like we need to get used to Loggy winning challenges.
With Loggy, I agree with what you said. This group is stacked from a physical perspective, and that's another one of my issues with the new era. Like, I don't know who's behind the scenes creating these tribes, but they're typically pretty bad at it. Most of these new era seasons, you get one tribe that's just completely outmatched. In 46, we had Yanu. In 45, we had Lulu. And now in 47, we have the next iteration, which I think will be Vula. I think they're going to go to at least 2 more tribal councils in the pre-merge. So Logi's going to be around for a while, but I'm kind of okay with that because I think from a character perspective, they're the most interesting group. With Thomas, who makes great TV. We talked about Joe and Eva as well. Star could be a chaotic personality. So normally I root against those larger tribes that dominate, but this is an exception.
Let's be conspiratorial here. Let's make a theory. If they're willing to cut out a whole shoulder dislocation, why wouldn't they just stack the tribe that has the most interesting dynamics? If we get 2 people out of Vula that are interesting personalities to make it through the merge and get to top 10, that's fine. Because then if we have 5 of 6 from Logi, that's great. And I would love to see the Eva-Joe dynamic go as far as possible. But we'll just have to see. We're making a lot of predictions, early doors here.
And since we have our tinfoil hats on, I'll just throw out one more thing. And that's every time we've covered one of these new era seasons with the Purple Tribe, the winner comes from the Purple Tribe. It was Jam Jam and Kenzie. So Logi could be following in those footsteps.
Anyway, do you want to go Sweat versus Savvy and then do the camp stuff?
Yeah.
I know it's not Sweat versus Savvy, but that's basically what it is. We have Kevin for Vula and Kyle for Siva. And the challenge is pretty straightforward. They're just going to race. They have to retrieve their machete, get their pot off of a bamboo pole, and then fill a jug with water to get a key out and unlock their flint. Whoever does it first gets to take the stuff. Whoever loses, loses. Interesting stuff here because we see 2 different mentalities. Kevin coming in off of an injury, goes slow and steady, takes it easy, gets to the coconut and figures out there's a reason for this coconut to be here and hacks it apart with his machete to get a key out. My question, how'd they get a key in a coconut?
This is beyond me. It's above my pay grade.
Do you think that production spent the time to reseal a coconut in a way that would only come apart if it was macheted apart? Because whatever they did had to break apart satisfyingly, right? It couldn't be a Kinder Egg, right? That just goes boop. I don't know how they did this, but they get both to the water pouring portion of the challenge. My question is, when using the machete to chop down the tree was allowed, why couldn't they just smash the jug?
I had the exact same thought because Kyle ends up getting disqualified from the challenge because he accidentally breaks his glass jug towards the end. Now, I thought this was the new era of Survivor. I thought this was all about finding innovative ways to come out on top. If you're Liz in 46 and you want to run across the lanes in the challenge to help Kenzie cheat, you are more than welcome to do so. But when Kyle breaks the glass jug, that's crossing a line. That's too far. Do you think this should have been allowed for Kyle, or you think the disqualification was justified?
Maybe if we go back and look at the explicit rules they were given, maybe it said you have to fill the jug up with water to the top. Maybe it said do not break the jug. I didn't hear anyone say that. I would have just broken it and grabbed the key out, right? Like, that doesn't hurt. I don't know. What I did like was that Kyle, after being disqualified, goes over, starts filling up his pot, and helps Kevin fill his jug. Very nice sportsmanlike moment. We don't always get that on the Sweat versus Savvy. I'm trying to remember who it was. The one that was a race, right? Where they were running through the forest. And that one was they had to get to the buoy, and it got a little hairy. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I think it was Aisha and TK in 47 that both get to the key, and TK's holding it, and Aisha makes the attempt to just grab it right out of his hands.
So I really liked this. It was a nice move, and they established, a bond that I could see showing up if Kevin's not gone in 2 weeks. But, which I'm starting to get... Man, you have thrown my episode by telling me it was a full dislocation because, spoiler alert, Kevin's my winner.
Oh, for the end of the episode. Okay, I'll think that's a bad pick. Well, you've covered the Sweat versus Savvy. We can go to the camps. Where do you want to go to first? We can kind of check off everything with each camp.
Let's do Logi because Logi really just has a couple things, but they're really nice. We basically have Thomas making alliances. Thomas gets in close with Bianca, and that's all I see. I have her name written down, so I guess I did see her on screen. And then Thomas establishes the California Girls Alliance with someone I have named Beard, because I don't know his name.
That's Shaheen. It's Shaheen and Joe are the other two members of that alliance. They call themselves the California Girls because they're all from California. So I thought to myself, oh, that's kind of wild. We have 3 contestants all from California on this tribe. There's probably like 4 Californians on the entire cast. And then I took a look. How many people on this cast would you guess are from the great state of California?
9.
The answer is 7. But
7
9
is
close.
So high.
Isn't that insane?
That's got to be the worst casting job they've done in terms of geographic diversity in a long time. That feels really high. That feels like Samoa casting.
California Girls is 3 people right now, but it could be expanding come the post-merge. We could get a final 7 of all California Girls.
Oh, Star is not playing a good social game. Star immediately goes idol hunting. Everybody notices it. A quote from somebody, it was either Shaheen or Thomas. If we have to get rid of her, that's going to hurt. But it's very clear that she's on the bottom socially immediately because of her idol hunting. And then we have the Eva and John relationship.
Joe.
Joe. Eva is autistic, and I mean, she might be the most badass person I've ever seen on this show. Men's hockey player, PhD candidate, goes on Survivor. That's awesome. She establishes pretty early doors this relationship with Joe. They have a good dynamic. They have a good alliance going. We already know, we talked about it earlier, how Joe wants to play a very loyal game and to make his daughters proud, or his kids proud. Eva decides that Joe is going to be the person she needs to get through this game. Because what Eva recognizes that we have seen a lot of people with varying mental illness or challenge or difference not recognize their own weak points, not do this. And she does it immediately. She goes to her ally and says, hey, between you and me, I'm autistic. If I start to have an episode where I get really overwhelmed, here's what I need you to do to get me out of it. Let's have a great game together, but I need you to trust you on this. Immediately, he handles it with kindness, grace. He welcomes her. He is so grateful that she trusts him with this. And he says, yeah, I'll take care of you. No worries. It brings him to tears in confessional that she has trusted him with this. Spectacular. Yeah. No, I mean, it's heartwarming. It's great strategy from Eva, by the way. I've talked a lot. What did you think?
It's a really sweet moment. It's one of those alliances that feels like it extends outside the game of Survivor. This isn't purely like a strategic working relationship. And assuming there's no disaster later in the season, which I doubt there will be between these two, I bet they're still friends after the show. I'll say that Eva is like one of my favorite characters on the cast so far. And I didn't expect that going in. I think she is so like prototypical athlete in a way where she loves playing hockey. She loves grabbing the bamboo. She admits that she kind of fixated on that to give her a sense of structure. I even just enjoy hearing her talk because she has that Minnesota Midwestern accent. I really like this alliance between the two of them. I will admit, though, that I think Joe at some point will be the one to take the fall for that pair. He has this confessional where he says, quote, if I got to go home early, I won't let her down. And I think that might be foreshadowing something. I think we might be facing a situation in the future where the group is targeting Joe and Eva and they're splitting the vote. And Joe plays an idol on Eva, knowing that he's sacrificing himself in the process. So I like this alliance a lot more for Eva than I do for Joe, just because he has more of that blind loyalty to her. And I'll also say that I feel like this tribe is a great position for Eva. I think she would get along with the people on this group better than any of the other two tribes. I think for Eva, she's looking for 2 things. She's looking for athletes because that's a mutual interest. And you have people like Star, who played semi-pro basketball. You have Joe, who's in great physical shape. You have Shaheen, who's an athlete. Like, I think Eva has that inroad with these people. And on top of that, I think Eva was looking for a mentor on this tribe. And she kind of found that in Joe being that parental figure for her. but she also has Shaheen there as someone who's a debate professor. Many of his students are probably around Eva's age. So
Yeah.
I think she's going to be very safe throughout the pre-merge. I don't think she's going
Oh my
home
God.
anytime soon.
A professor and a PhD candidate, I mean, they're going to be buds for sure.
Yeah. I'll just say one more thing about Loggy before we move on. There's a big discussion around camp on who will be the fourth member of the California Girls Alliance, because you have those three guys, and you're going to have Thomas campaigning saying, we got to make Bianca the fourth California girl, and you're going to have Joe saying, we got to pull in Eva. Based off the edit, I'm pretty confident that Eva's going to be the one looped into the mix, and Bianca will be more towards the outside. But that's everything I have there. Do you want to go to Siva next, and then we can do all of the Vula content together?
Yeah, I mean, Siva, there's not a ton going on here. Off the bat, starting to get settled in at camp. Chrissy says that she is not bossy. Always a red flag. Chrissy is my first round draft pick in fantasy.
Your winner pick for the season.
I guess she's my winner pick for the season. When someone on Survivor says they're not bossy, they're almost always going to end up being bossy at some point. Almost always. Because there's no other reason to put it in the edit. I mean, I basically have two other things, and it's the icebreaker from David and David's advantage hunt. Which do you want to talk about first?
So David's one of the big things that I wanted to hit on from the Siva tribe, because he's essentially the meat boy archetype that we've thought of for the past 2-3 years, finally coming to fruition. Like, he checks off every stereotype that we've been looking for.
Yes.
We get scenes of David doing pull-ups for the entire tribe. When Kyle comes back after the challenge and admits that he lost, David says in confessional that, hey, I would have won that. And then he has this random survey that he gives out to the rest of the tribe where he wants to know the car they drive, the way they like their steak, and their favorite movie.
It's a wild series of questions because he says all you need to know somebody are these three things. Such a California thing to say car you drive, but any other major city, that's not a guarantee. But California, that's a guarantee. So immediately, car you drive, disqualified. How you like your steak cooked, that's just like, are you normal or not, right? Well, okay, what would you say?
I'd probably say like medium rare, but that's pretty basic.
Right, because medium rare is the only answer that is valid. Medium, why would you do that? That's boring. Anything well done, crazy. And just saying rare is also kind of crazy. Medium rare is the safe route. So that's two of the questions. Favorite movie doesn't tell you that much about a person. But Camilla says, oh, I love Holes. That's my favorite movie. And Kyle gets very excited because he also loves Holes. But Camilla says that she watches her favorite movies on repeat. She likes a comfort watch. And her two comfort watches are Holes, the kids' movie about digging holes in the desert, and The Departed, the incredibly intense Boston gangster movie with DiCaprio, I think, and Matt Damon.
Yeah.
And De Niro, maybe. It's a wild two movies to pick, and I love her for that because it's a wild selection.
No, I saw The Departed for the first time like a year and a half ago. The cast is
Alec Baldwin,
absolutely absurd.
Martin Sheen. I love Martin Sheen.
But with David,
Anyway.
Asking all these questions, fulfilling all the meat boy archetypes, he has this confessional where he says, maybe I'll be a hero, maybe I'll be a villain. Do you feel like David will lean one way or the other? Like, what's your prediction for David's character development?
I think it's going to be along a Caleb line where he says he wants to be a villain, and it doesn't happen. As a meat boy, he's way too far down the meat boy avenue to not be a big target down the line, right? And so playing a villain game and risking making enemies is not going to be a smart move for him. That's my take.
Oh, see, I agree that it won't be a smart move, but I'm predicting that it will be the move that he will make. Maybe I'm just rooting for villains, and I think we have one semi-villain on the cast right now. I think Say is stepping into that role for like an early season villain, and I could see David taking the reins in the back half once Say is voted out pre-merge. So I'm hoping he can turn into that villainous figure.
And what David does at the camp is kind of villainous because he and Mitch find the first clue towards the Beware advantage, and he decides to tell the whole tribe. And they go on a full tribe hunt to find all the clues for this Beware advantage before they've built a shelter. before
Yeah.
they've established their camp. That's kind of a villain move, whether or not it's intentional. Let's not do any of the preparation we need to do. Let's go look for this thing that only one of us can have.
I just have
Yeah.
one more thing to talk about with the Siva
Yeah.
tribe, and that's
Is it Charity?
Camilla. Yeah, Camilla and Charity. We see Charity throw out Kyle's name under this assumption that Kyle could have acquired an advantage when he went on the Sweat versus Savvy challenge. Kyle's a threat. That's never happened in the new
it's
era.
so early.
You never get an advantage when you go on that challenge. Like, if this was a journey, I would agree with her read there. But she throws out Kyle's name to Kyle's number one ally in Camilla. So Camilla immediately reports that back to Kyle. She gathers the numbers against Charity. So we see this new majority alliance of Camilla, Kyle, Chrissy, and David. So a pretty eclectic group there.
And it comes together so fast that Camilla is surprised how well it's gone.
And I was devastated because Mitch is on my fantasy team, and it seems like people on that tribe like Mitch, but they don't want to rope him in to be number 5 in the alliance. Like, come on, give Mitch a chance for me. I already lost Stephanie this week.
Mitch seems too nice. Mitch seems like the kind of guy who will play too open, almost. That's my take.
See, I think Mitch has a Ben potential. He reminds me of Ben a little bit with like his very optimistic outlook on everything. So
yeah,
the name of my fantasy team is Zero Vote Finalist Club. So Mitch could be fulfilling that role. You know, Camilla defends Kyle. They're locked in step for the rest of the season. And I think that Eva and Joe are a more interesting pair from a character perspective. But I think that Camilla and Kyle are more compelling from a strategic perspective because I don't see Eva and Joe ever flipping on each other. Whereas I could see Camilla and Kyle eventually down the line saying, I need to cut my number 1. So I'm rooting for that pair just because I think they'll add more to the strategy side of the show.
Vula?
Yeah, one tribe left. Where do you want to start with Vula?
Basically, there's one thing happening, and it's Say. Because Say, immediately, they are gathering preliminary materials for the shelter. And it's her and the 2 other ladies, Mary and Stephanie. And immediately Say's like, all right, we in alliance? And they're like, let's just collect these palm fronds. And so Say goes, okay, bye. And goes and talks to Cedric and Kevin?
Justin. Yeah, the pizza guy.
Oh, the pizza guy. Yeah. So immediately Say is talking to everybody about alliances, trying to play the game. She wants to come out of episode 1 with relationships. And I got to be honest, I thought she was going home. Pretty early doors here because she goes so hard. Even before she finds the advantage, right? She is trying to establish relationships. She's talking strategy. She's talking targets. That's a lot for the first 6 hours on the beat.
There's some real Rome energy to Say in that she's not here to make friends. She's here to play the game and build those alliances off the bat. I never got the sense that Say was going to go home this episode, especially with Jeff's opening monologue on how you need to play the game. You don't want to sit back and wait. Like, Say kind of embodies playing the game to its fullest degree, even if it might be to her own, like, long-term detriment.
But you pick up on those cues so much better than I do because I was watching her and seeing, I don't know one thing about Say after this episode besides her gameplay. I don't know anything about her personality. I don't know where she's from. I don't know any of that. If I had read the pre-show documents, I probably would. But the point is, like, where other people, you know, we just saw on the other tribe, they're getting to know each other. They're establishing relationships, all that jazz. Say is going strategic first, not friendship first. That's how I'm going to put it. She's going tactics over platonics. Oh, do you like that?
It might be the episode title there.
She's going tactics over platonics. And I think in the new era, you have to start with platonics, at least a little bit. We see Thomas and Bianca at the well, and they're going, I'm so glad I'm on your tribe. Let's be friends. Let's work together, right? They're vibing, and then the alliance comes out of it. Say is going, let's sign a blood oath right now. And the other people are going, I don't know who you are. What's your name? I can see this being a scenario where when and if Say gets voted out, nobody spells her name right on the vote because she's never told them how to spell it. That's the energy I see here, is a lot of those votes saying S-A-Y because she hasn't, like, opened up to people. And if she did, I think she'd be in a much more comfortable position than I see her in right now.
That's interesting, because I do think Sei built some real relationships here, and that's more so through her gameplay with the idol than her actual social work. She finds the Beware advantage. It's this entire saga where she needs to decode this message of numbers that are in different colors, and then paint it around camp. You'll find that Survivor has now turned into a fun house, and they have put these images all over the rocks and the different pieces of bamboo, and they're not subtle. Like, the octopus that they paint on the rock is massive.
And neon pink.
So it kind of removes that element of feeling like these contestants are going out into the wilderness and surviving amidst the elements. Now this feels like production's world where they can pull all the strings behind the scenes. I wasn't crazy about this version of the Beware advantage, but with that said, like, Sei still uses that to her benefit. She shares it with Cedric, Justin, and Kevin. And by sharing that information, she's able to decode the message, acquire the idol. And I think that move plays a large role in them ultimately siding with her when they go to tribal council. I feel like that built a lot of trust. But kind of like what you said, that's not a platonic trust. This is a working relationship, not a personal one.
I mean, she shows it to so many people that it was like comparable to David bringing the whole tribe on a field trip, right? Also, shout out to the Da Vinci Code. Wasn't expecting to see a codex, the cipher thing.
Yeah, I didn't know what the name of that was. Okay.
I think it's called a codex, something like that. Hold on. It's called a cryptex.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see. I feel very pessimistic for her coming out of this episode. Well, and the next time on wasn't terribly kind to her.
What happened to the next time on? I never watch it.
So that's so funny that for all of this, all of your in-depth analysis, you don't watch those. There was just a lot of people looking very angry and saying stuff about like making enemies. I could see it not going well in her favor. And I'll say this, at this stage, I can see her being an easy target for this tribe because she's got the idol. And if they can make her comfortable, keep her from playing it, that's a big early boot, puts the idol back in play.
And we'll be talking more about the vote after the challenge, but do you want to go to immunity? The first big challenge of the season.
Yeah. Ramps, nets. They've got to smash a mask, pull a sled, push a sled, build a puzzle. We get to see the idols for the first time. I'll get into the aesthetic for the prop design on this season later because I think it's pretty fun, but I'm going to save it for later. And once again, Logie is just very, very good. It's an easy win for them.
They got first place in this challenge and the marooning challenge. Second place is Siva. Third is Vula, meaning they will be attending tribal council. Only highlight that I have from this challenge was Charity during the puzzle section is posing for the camera. She's like sticking her tongue out and kind of, celebrating before they've actually done it. And I don't think they were that far ahead of the other tribe to the point where it warranted the celebration. So
Vula was like 2 pieces away and couldn't finish it, and Siva came back to win. So that is bold.
Yeah. And it's also revealed postseason that, what's his name? Kevin was on the puzzle there, and since his shoulder was still in pain, he could barely apply any pressure. So you might notice as they're building the puzzle, some of the pieces look like they're
loose.
Fully flush, and that's because he was unable to actually adjust them. So I don't know why they put him on the puzzle section.
Why did they do this? That's crazy. Okay, before we go to the post-challenge, though, we have an advertisement. And that advertisement is from Jeff saying, hey, everybody, I know you're watching this season of Survivor, but you want to care about something that's going to happen in 2026? Vote now for the outcome of what's going to happen in season 50. Survivor 50, they're letting the audience change the game. And there's going to be a series of votes that the audience gets to vote on to change the prerequisites, the events of the game. Now, these options are not text entry, so I couldn't vote in my vote for put the show in anywhere else. But unfortunately, it's a bunch of multiple choice. Did you look at these options?
Yeah, I already voted. I cast my votes.
Okay. So the 4 options for the first round of voting are the buff colors. Do you remember what you voted for?
So the buff colors I cared the least about. It's not going to really affect the game. I think it was option B because they had a teal buff. And all of the other options had either your basic primary or secondary colors, which we always see in the new era. So I picked the one option that introduced at least something new.
The next question was rice or no rice. I'm sure you said no rice.
I said no rice because production has come out and said that they're not going to increase it to 39 days. So if it's 26, it's an easier timeline already for the contestants. We need to increase the difficulty to some degree to balance it out.
Number 3 was Final Four fire making.
Well, I feel like most people know where I stand on this. I'm kind of
a
purist, so I'm going to vote no for fire making. Where would you vote on that one?
I would vote no because, I mean, after Teeny's defeat, having the elements just take it away like that feels so crappy.
I think also with fire making, we've seen like a wide range of outcomes with it. We've seen blowouts in fire making. We saw a tight race between Teeny and Sam. We saw
really
the jury threat win fire making. We've seen the jury threat lose fire making. So I don't really know what that twist has left to offer us as viewers. Yeah. So I feel like this is a game that's based in voting. Why are we changing the central focus of the game in the most important vote of the season?
And I hope I know where you stand on this. Final vote reveal in LA or Fiji.
It's the season of California girls. We got to bring it back to California. That's kind of the theme of Survivor. So
the walk through the jungle onto the stage in LA is the greatest trick in cinematic history. Why would we not have that? I love that. They're really trying to get people to get involved, and a lot of it feels superficial so far, but we'll see as the weeks progress how much stuff we actually get to vote on.
And I'll be excited to see how this changes Survivor beyond Survivor 50, where if they get the results, and it's what I expect, like 98% of people saying do the reunion in LA, are they going to only do it for 50 and then go back to doing the reunion in Fiji? Or will they say, okay, this is what the fans want, we should just keep with it moving forward?
I'm hoping 51, they're blowing up the format. I'm hoping they're riding the new era to 51 and then saying, or to 50 and then saying, guess what, guys? Survivor 51, the DMZ, we're going to North Korea, right? I want them to go somewhere insane. Leave Fiji behind. Hey, guess what, guys? Survivor 51, we're going to, oh gosh, what's the name of that country? It's not Eritrea, but it's around, no, like somewhere in very remote Saharan Africa, far West Africa, where it's really just nothing but sand. A change. And it needs to be dramatic for me. But anyway, animal shot.
Oh, what?
We do get a pretty good animal shot before the post-challenge discussion, and it's a mobula ray. Mobula is a genus of rays. It's a giant ray, not a stingray, but a giant ray. And these are actually rays known as devil rays because they have kind of the horny protrusions on their face. There's a bunch of them. There's about 11 species. Not quite clear which one this is. They can fly up to 2 meters. It's really a jump, but they can leap and go 6 feet in the air, and they are huge. So going 6 feet when you are a couple of feet to 6 feet wide, up to 17 feet wide, right? So pretty cool.
And what does it represent? What's the connection here?
I just got excited about a unique animal shot. We haven't seen one of those yet.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this time, since it's been a 2-month break. Next animal shot, I need some literary analysis to go with it. No, that's just for next time. I'm telling you now, that's your homework assignment. We go to the pre-tribal council discussions where
let's do it.
It's really 2 pairs with another duo in the middle. On one side, you have Say and Cedric. On the other, you have Mary and Stephanie. And the people in the middle are Justin and Kevin. I don't get the sense that Justin and Kevin are like this tight-knit alliance. They're just kind of in the middle through circumstances, and they need to decide which way they're going to go. Justin brings up the pizza shop. He says that Say is dangerous, but he's not fully prepared to flip on her. He says, at the pizza shop, I go in the morning, I take inventory, and I see what I got to do. Now I got to make a decision. So Justin fulfilling his role as the pizza guy of the season. Big question here is, what is the right move? Is it better to align with the women and voting out Say, or is it better to align with the person holding the idol to vote out Stephanie?
As Justin and Kevin?
Yeah.
I think as Justin and Kevin, you're better off going with Say now, right? I think you undercut this fledgling women's alliance. They are clearly stronger than anyone else on the board. I think the move is vote with Say this week, take Say out next week. Make Say think, hey, we'll take out Stephanie, we'll take out Mary. You got it, Say.
And you know what, Jack? I agree with you. I think you made the right call here. I like the idea, especially for Kevin, to vote out Stephanie here, because we know he's tight with Mary. You can cut her other option right now, and now going into the next episode, she'll be fully dependent on Kevin. And Kevin and Justin will have that decision to either stick with that 4-person alliance that was established this week, or they could flip, work with Mary, and get Say out of the game. So I really like this move from Kevin's perspective. Justin, not enough content in the episode for me to really make a judgment one way or the other on him.
He just wants some pizza, baby. That's all I can tell about him.
And I don't think that shirt he's wearing is an original pizza shirt. In my mind, he bought a green T-shirt and then got some kind of arts and crafts setup and wrote the word pizza on it. It looks like that.
I've hit the point in my life where I have too many T-shirts, and I have a hard time getting rid of T-shirts because I'm attached to all of them. I would want to add a pizza, one of these shirts to my inventory.
Not a pizza slice, just the word pizza.
Yeah, just the word pizza in 2025 is very funny because it has like a 2011 Tumblr energy to it.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like the mustache tattoo, bacon on the coffee mug, and a pizza T-shirt. Oh boy, take me back. Anyway, do you want to go to Tribal?
Yeah, let's head to Tribal.
All right. Do you want me to talk about the design?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, because this is pretty cool. The idols and the tribal council area, there's a very distinct tribal-esque sort of African-inspired aesthetic here, right? You have these idols that are figurines, very ornately carved and decorated. You have this tribal council area of all of these onion-shaped huts in different layers, and they're all painted in different tiers and things. One guy came up with this. A guy named Zach Jensen, one of the designers on Survivor, came up with this. He created an imaginary civilization, the people of Izadega, and wants to build the civilization, fictional civilization, and use it for tribal council. Thousands of years old, fictional civilization. He ages it. They basically created this fake village, then weathered it, then pretended there was a war and damaged some of them and patched them up. And essentially, he has created this whole fictional tribe. And so all of the artwork and objects and imagery is based on one guy's fictional story.
That's
kind of
very
weird,
different from the themes that we've seen at Tribal Council in the past. Like, this has a lot more imagination going into it. In the past, the theme is just an animal. Like 45, it was birds, and 46, it was geckos. I don't remember what it was for 47. So I appreciate the planning that went into all that.
There were bats on the logo, at least, in 47.
It was bats in 47.
Uh-oh.
Any other highlights from Tribal Council for you?
Would you say you're an air sign?
Honestly, I didn't even know what that was before this week. I was happy that Stephanie brought it up because that's something I would expect her to do preseason. That's one of the few things that I got right in my read of Stephanie.
What's your zodiac sign?
I think I'm the fish, whichever one that is.
The fish. That's Pisces.
Yeah, I think I'm a Pisces
sign. So Pisces is not an air sign. It's a water sign. So I guess you wouldn't get along with Stephanie. But they don't really explain what air signs mean. I did write down that I love how people who fixate on astrology like to argue more than other people. Like, it seems like whenever you have people who say, oh, we have a lot of Pisces on the tribe or whatever, for some reason that makes them more inclined to start beef. And Say and Stephanie immediately start going at it. And we talked about this dynamic earlier of playing to win or enjoying your time on the island. And Say draws that binary option. And I didn't like it. I mean, I think it's reductive. It works, right? Say does not go home. But I really felt like it was a short-sighted, limited delineation, right? And I think if Say's reason for going home ends up being a lack of social connection, I think we can trace it back to this. So just something to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, and I agree it is reductive, but if you're going to make me pick, I honestly lean more towards the Stephanie camp than I do the Say camp, where I think it's better to, at least in the early game, just lie low, establish your connections, because big moves in early Survivor never win you the show. No. You could try bringing those up in a final tribal, and I don't think juries would care that much about it. So I think really in this stage of your game, your goal is to build relationships that would facilitate those big moves in the back half. So even though Stephanie goes out here, your final vote is a 4-1. Everyone votes against Stephanie with the exception of Mary, who votes against Say. Stephanie plays her shot in the dark. So even though Stephanie was my preseason winner pick, the worst preseason winner pick in the history of this podcast, I don't think she's the worst contestant on the cast, because she was at least self-aware enough to say, I'm the target of the vote. I got to play my shot in the dark. And if it worked out, we'd have another Caleb and everyone would love her. But it just didn't happen that way. So I think if you put Stephanie on one of the other two tribes, she fares much better than if you put her alongside Say.
So then you said she's not the worst player on the tribe or on the cast. She did go out first. So who would you say is the worst?
I'll need to see how the game plays out. Like, she'll be in contention with the other first boots from the other tribes, because really the only difference there is that Stephanie's tribe was weaker physically than the others, which I don't fault her too much for. But I could see Star being worse than Stephanie. Oh, I could see Charity being worse than Stephanie. So it kind of depends how the game plays out.
It will be interesting because Star is doing exactly what Say did, idol hunting immediately, with the difference being Say idol hunted immediately and talked strategy and established a bit of connection. I don't think we've seen Star have a conversation yet. And so hopefully, I mean, Star's on my fantasy team. Hopefully we see her a little more.
But with Stephanie going out of the game, I know everyone's wondering, Clyde, who are you locking in for your second winner pick of the season? We get 3 of these as we walk through the entire thing. And after some consideration, looking at the entire cast, considering every person on the board, once again, I have landed on my second round fantasy pick, then I'm going with Thomas. I do think Thomas is in a good spot moving forward. I think that we see much more of Thomas than we do Bianca. So when you look at the alliance of Joe and Eva, either one of them could come out on top in the long run. Whereas I'm confident that Thomas will outplay Bianca deeper in the season. Plus, I think the winner's coming from that purple tribe. So I'll lock in Thomas as my second winner pick of Survivor 48. I'm already working my way through 2 of these. Do you want to go to winners and losers?
Let's do it. Who is your winner?
I'm giving it to Kevin.
Yeah, my winner is also Kevin. Okay, good.
Yeah, even though you had the entire incident of Kevin's dislocated shoulder, I don't think he's going to win the whole show because of the edit surrounding that injury. But I think he makes the right move this week, and he'll have the opportunity to flip the vote onto Say next week. So I think he's been playing a good game so far.
I mean, I would agree with all of that. If you're a Ewell head, I'm automatically rooting for you. I agree. Kevin.
Who is your loser?
My loser is Say.
Okay.
I don't see Say making it to week 4. I think the Green Tribe is physically weakest. I think they are going to go to Tribal a lot early on. I can see this being a snowball effect for them that continues to get worse. And I think, Say, with an idol that people know about, that's an easy threat, and we'll see what happens. But I could see her going pretty quick.
I'm surprised by that. I feel like if you were going to give Say an award, it would have been way more likely that you gave her the winner just for achieving her desired outcome of getting rid of Stephanie. So I considered her for the loser, but I'm giving my loser to Star. This was a toss-up between Star and Charity because I feel like they are so clearly the outsiders of their tribe. But I chose Star because I feel like there is a world where when that Siva tribe goes to tribal council, they could look to get rid of Mitch before Charity, whereas Star really has no allies as far as the edit is concerned. Every other person on that Loggy tribe has a connection into the California Girls Alliance, with the exception of Star. So I feel the most confident in Star going home at the next opportunity, but she might not have to face that for a while, since that Loggy tribe is so stacked from a physical perspective.
Who is your dishonorable mention? First one of the season. Set the tone.
So I'm giving my dishonorable mention to a contestant, but not a contestant on this season. I'm giving my dishonorable mention to Carolyn from Survivor 44. It's kind of a shout out to my other series, but if you were listening into our fantasy draft, then you know that my inspiration for taking Stephanie was that I thought that she was the improved version of Carolyn, this quirky archetype with more game ability. I don't think she was as loyal to a fault as Carolyn. And I'll admit that pick was somewhat influenced by the traders, which I'm covering right now. You can find that on YouTube. But Carolyn is on that show, and she gets a lot of screen time. I feel like I was swayed by the recent influx of Carolyn content, and this is where it got me. It got me with my first round pick going out in 18th place, and now I have people on TikTok going to the video where I mentioned my winner pick and just clowning me in the comments section. So thanks a lot, Carolyn.
I love it when people clown you in a comment section, but I mean, that's fair enough. That's a good dishonorable. I'm glad you see what I see. Well, my honorable mention goes to Constantine Samuel Rafinesque.
Okay.
Obviously. He was a polymath born in Constantinople who spent a big chunk of his life in Delaware and Philadelphia. He was, quote, an eccentric and erratic genius. By the age of 12, he was collecting plants for his own herbarium collection. He taught himself Greek and Latin by age 14 because he hadn't been able to keep up with the books he was trying to read. Very, very successful academic in a bunch of different fields, but even though his study was really prolific, he was not recognized for a lot of his work during his lifetime. But he did name the devil ray genus Mobula. And so I just thought that was kind of interesting. This guy made notable contributions to botany, zoology, and prehistoric earthworks in Mesoamerica and Mesoamerican linguistics. Incredibly prolific. Born in 1783, died in 1840. So pretty early on to name a genus of fish nowhere near where he lived, but kind of interesting.
That is interesting. Man, we're really running back the hits for the honorable mention. We're sticking with the historical theme. I think you've been running with this theme since Cook Islands, I want to say.
It was going to be that or Zach Jensen, the designer who came up with the imaginary civilization, but this guy's too interesting. He's worth...
Or you could have given it to one of the actors in The Departed.
Oh, shout out to Mark Wahlberg. Big fan. Keep it up, buddy. I think that does it for our first episode. If you're a new listener, welcome. If you're an old listener, welcome back. And we're excited for another good season.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.